Hello, I'm Phelim McAleer.
And I'm Anne McElhinney.
And welcome to the Anne and Phelim Scoop, all the way from Belgrade, Serbia, and on the first day of the shoot of My Son Hunter.
So a lot of activity around here, so you'll see we're plenty of people setting up at the moment.
This is My Son Hunter, the true story of Hunter Biden and Biden family corruption, which you have funded. This is what you paid for. Thank you very much. We're going to tell the truth about Biden family corruption. We got cameramen, we got grips, we got people,
masters, makeup people doing costumes.
Lots of equipment. Apparently, an actor or two as well.
Yes, and actors. I think they're off getting made up right now.
Yes, and we're on the 10th floor of the Metropole Hotel, downtown Serbia. We're going to be filming
Belgrade, Serbia.
Yes, and we're going to be filming, I believe, a scene about one of Hunter Biden's
many
business dealings. I think he did a lot of business dealings in a hotel, restaurants. This is the restaurant of the Hotel Metropole. So outside, you can catch a little glimpse of out there.
Early morning light.
Yes, the very early morning light, 7 a.m. Serbia. 7 a.m. Serbia, what is it in the rest of the world? And it's
9 hours.
Different from LA.
Yes. I'm still recovering. I didn't sleep last night.
Yes.
So a little bit of jet lag problems, but it's all very exciting.
Well, anyway, we thought we'd introduce you to Serbia, to Belgrade, to the My Son Hunter movie. Don't forget, you can still help make it happen by going to mysonhunter.com. But by the way, we have a packed show today. Well, actually, tell people what happened. So Laurence Fox has arrived. He arrived over the weekend. Robert Davi has been here. Who else has arrived? John James, who's going to play President Biden, has arrived. They've been rehearsing. They've been running. We ran through the script. And
every day something happens. You know, some drama happens, as you can imagine, with all the moving parts that are going on here. We had one of our actors, one of the actors that we had, his mother died, and we had to have him replaced at the last minute.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of stuff that happens, obviously, in a real movie setting.
And 3 members of the crew actually have tested positive for COVID during the run up to this. So COVID is a constant worry.
So you'll notice a lot of people are wearing masks. We're not wearing our masks right now just because of the fact that
we're recording. Yes. But I think everyone else is wearing masks, and we're careful with that. So what's on the show today, Anne? There's lots, and we'll talk about that later. But I want to talk about, given where we are, I want to talk about obviously the Alec Baldwin tragedy, I suppose is the word for it. It's multi-layered what's going on, and I'd like to talk about the media response to it as well, and how they seem to be definitely giving one of their own a pass. But anyway, we'll go out. I think we're going to do the podcast from the balcony, overlooking Belgrade, Serbia. But this is My Son Hunter. This is the movie. This is only the beginning.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
And what we're going to do is we're going to be bringing the podcast from here for the next 4 weeks during the shoot.
Yes.
So we'll have lots of news from the set. We'll have lots of actors joining us. Not today. Today I think we're not going to have an actor join us because I think they're under a bit of pressure today.
Yes.
But this is the first location we're at, and we're going to be in a different location this afternoon and on a different location tomorrow. So we're on the move all the time. And that's one of the reasons why you came out early with the rest of the crew to do these location scouting, finding these really cool places in Belgrade where they can shoot this movie.
And also don't forget to check out our Facebook, Instagram and Twitter accounts, My Son Hunter, because we'll be dropping pictures and interviews all along for the next 4 weeks. Bringing you up to date, telling you how we're spending the money that you raised to get the truth out, because don't forget, Hollywood wants to suppress this, the mainstream media want to suppress this, but we're not going to allow that to happen. You're not going to allow that to happen. So thank you, and let's go on with the rest of the podcast. So we also want to bring you a piece of hot news. You may have seen it, I don't know. John James, the actor, is joining the My Son Hunter production as he's going to play Joe Biden. Of course you remember John James. He was Jeff from Dynasty, or as you people say, Dynasty. He was in the Colbys. I think he was voted sexiest man alive for most of the 80s. He's flown all the way from LA, Nashville to Serbia to play Joe Biden. It's a role he really wants to play it. It's a very challenging role for an actor because playing a public figure, it's hard to get away from the mimicry to be an actual actor. But there's so much going on between Hunter Biden and Joe Biden in the My Son Hunter movie. As I say, it's King Lear. It's Joe knows he's an addict, but sees him as a business opportunity. Hunter wants the approval of his father, but knows he can never get it because he's not Beau Biden. There's so much going on. And then you add in the corruption, the international travel, the intrigue, all of that. It's a great story, and I think that's why John James wanted to be part of it. He may pop in for a few minutes later on in the podcast. We're not sure. It's organised chaos here, as you can see. People are very busy. They're doing things, and there's a lot of work to be done to get John James to look like Joe Biden, given that I think John's 10 or 15 years younger than Joe Biden. But we've got some great special effects people, and they're going to work their magic. So watch this space to see the results. Thank you. So let's start the podcast. It's week 84, 1 year, 8 months since the 2 weeks to flatten the curve lockdown. 5 months since it was revealed that Hunter Biden used the N-word and the mainstream media had failed to report it. You know,
we're in Belgrade. I'm here now.
Yes, you're here now.
Yes, and came on a 13-hour flight from Los Angeles to Istanbul, and then Istanbul to Belgrade.
Yes, yes.
And everyone smokes here.
Yes.
I can assure you now that everyone smokes here, and they smoke indoors.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how you forget that happens.
And we're going to talk obviously more about the shooting of the film that you helped fund. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. What else is on the show, Anne? We're going to talk about...
Well, interesting talking about shooting on sets.
Oh!
I know, rather awkward segue there. We are probably going to talk a little bit about what happened.
We're going to give you the insight on Alec Baldwin and what happened and what should have happened on his film set. And I'll remind you about my wild weekend with the volatile Mr. Baldwin and his mercurial temperament.
And we've had one of you fabulous watchers, listeners, ask about the cats. So we'll bring you an update on the cats.
Yeah, because they sort of implied that we killed them and buried them because they said, I haven't seen any pictures of the cats recently. It's
yes,
like,
they're still alive.
There was a definite implication that we'd done something nefarious. And later on the show, Oxfam has to choose. Oxfam, the development charity, the charity that I think it's even a Catholic charity, is it, that feeds starving children. They had to choose between starving children and the horrible trans lobby, and guess who they chose? And a personal favourite of mine, Republicans have learned nothing from Trump, and they seem determined to learn nothing, so they do the same thing they ever did and hire the same blood-sucking, incompetent consultants who give them kickbacks with their own money, or even sometimes don't even give them kickbacks. That's how incompetent they are. So it's just more of the same, and it's why Republicans win nothing. So, and Kiss Me, I'm Irish. Now the Irish need permission from the government to get down with it, and that's sad, but that's the way Ireland is at the moment. And
I'd recommend for people to make red pepper soup because it is very cold in Belgrade, and I think it's very cold in a lot of parts of the world. And I think I talked about red pepper soup before.
Yes.
But I noticed that the red pepper soup recipe is not with the recipes.
Oh.
So just in case no one learned about this amazing recipe of mine, which I got from a very good friend of mine in Aspen. Thank you very much, Melanie. Same Melanie, by the way, that wrote the amazing story about the dog. But and talking of dogs, we have a little bit of a dog story as well this week.
Do we?
Yes.
What dog
Anthony
story?
Fauci now is going to get cancelled, by the way. It's kind of interesting, by the way. Fauci is going to get, eventually going to get his comeuppance. And what he's going to get his comeuppance for is what he did to dogs.
Yes.
Horrible story that we've heard about just now.
I just want to say, if you hear some noise in the background, that is the crew packing up after a morning of the first day of shoot of My Son Hunter. Just to say, My Son Hunter, funded by you, thank you so much. Project is 2.5 million. I think we're almost at 1.7 million now. So please give what you can. We do get your donations every week, but now
and we do appreciate them. And it's amazing. I mean, you look around here and you look at some of that footage that we're showing now.
You show that
of the
footage,
amount of people.
Yeah.
Look at the number of people that are working here. Incredibly professional staff. I mean, I was just thinking, like last night when I was going to bed at like 9 o'clock or whatever, everyone else here continued to work. People were working up until midnight last night, down in the pub, downstairs, down in the lobby, smoking heavily, getting very stressed, but really, really busy and incredibly professional. And then this morning we started at just after 6:30 this morning. Yes. People had a call for breakfast. So these are really long days. These are really professional, fabulous people, and we're really lucky to be working with them. But everyone needs to be paid.
Yeah, and so just, have a look at some of these shots from this morning. a lot going on. Robert's.
He's great. He's an artist. He's an artist, and he's really great at getting the best out of the actors. We're really it's wonderful to watch him, and he's got a beautiful eye for detail.
Yeah, and over the weekend, Lawrence Fox arrived, who's playing Hunter Biden. John James, who is playing Joe Biden, arrived, and he hasn't yet been on the set. John hasn't, but Lawrence was on this morning. Sterling performance, and John is spending a lot of time with his hairdresser, I think.
Yes, I think there's a lot of looks being worked on.
Yes, because actually, funny enough, John is 10 years younger than Biden, or maybe more. So, there's a lot of work to get him...
Aging him up a little
Aging
bit.
him and making him a little bit more decrepit.
Yes.
So there you go. So there is a lot of work. But Belgrade, Anne, what do you think of Belgrade?
I think it's gorgeous here, actually. A city with two rivers, right? So one of the rivers is the Danube, actually. So I think some of those cruises...
Oma has two rivers.
No, not so much, Phelan. But yeah, but we walked around on Sunday a little bit.
Oma does have two rivers. Oma County Tyrone, where I'm from, has two rivers.
Not quite as impressive or as dramatic or as romantic as the Danube, however. But really nice.
What's the other river, Anne?
Here in Belgrade? No, I don't know what the name of the other river is.
It is, we'll ask her, it's Saba, isn't it?
He's not. Oh, the Saba.
Cameraman, Nikolai, the cameraman, is nodding.
But during the weekend, lots of people out walking, and there's a very, very vibrant kind of coffee society life here. There are lots and lots of small cafes serving drinks, serving coffee, serving soups, and people still, at this time of the year, coming to the very end of October, sitting outside, and I'm wondering, when does that end? When do they stop sitting outside?
Well, the weather ain't bad, and they tell me the weather never gets really bad.
It's pretty cold this morning now. Yeah. I think we're all finding it a little chilly. I mean, you're noticing what we're all wearing, Phil? We've got our woolly
we are. One of the thing was the doors were open, there was a draft coming through, there was clean corn, So there is, but up until now, it's been okay. That you can sit out most days. It's definitely. We spent a lot of time in Bucharest, Romania, in our past, and this has a sense of. Belgrade has a sense that it was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Has that great empire city feel?
Yes, but it has also an awful lot of communist era buildings that have a very distinctive look.
There's the script, in fact, and there's the look. Actually, there's.
What they call the sides.
The sides, that was what we shot today, and I don't know if you can see that. It says, My Son Hunter, shooting script yellow, shooting day 1 sides. And this is what we are filming today. We're
halfway through it.
Halfway through it, and I mean, it's look at the complexity of the call sheet, Weather, nearest hospital, all the different scenes, all the actors who are supposed to be on, there is organisation here that would make your head spin. It really is. 3 pages of organisation. There's all the people who are on.
It's a lot of people.
Art director, production designer, property buyer, prep decorator, lighting tech, best boy, main gaffer, lighting tech 1, lighting tech 2, lighting tech 3, AD, first AD. Talking of ADs, let's talk about Alec Baldwin. There's been a lot of talk about Alec Baldwin. Very often. I don't want to jump into something if I've got nothing interesting or original to say. But I think we are now in this hotel. There's 3 different movies and TV series being shot here. I also have an experience of Alec Baldwin. So Alec Baldwin, several years ago, he's the chairman of the Hampton International Film Festival, and he was doing something about fracking. And he wanted to have a panel afterwards, and he sent out to someone we want a pro-fracking person for the panel. And this person said, oh, I know a pro-fracking filmmaker who could come on. It's a film festival.
One film McAleer.
We made Frack Nation. And they phoned me up and said, would you come on? I said, of course. I'll always go anywhere to discuss fracking.
But you're not believing a word of what they're saying.
Look who we've been joined by now. It is the one and only John James.
Hello, everyone.
I actually didn't recognize there, John.
Oh, are they working on your? Are they working in your hair?
They will be in about 2 hours.
Oh, there you are. We were just
I'm going to pop out as Joe Biden.
I like it. I like it.
Do.
Yes. Aren't we very lucky to be joined by John?
Yes, this is John.
Well, have fun, everybody. We'll see you, I'm sure, a couple of times.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
That was quite shocking.
See, that's just what happens when you're on the set of a movie.
Yes. So Alec, I accepted the invitation to debate, And then I think what happened was, I think Josh Fox, who's a friend of Alec Baldwin's, phoned him up and says, "You can't have this guy on." And then Alec, I think it was a Friday night, and he started, I'm suggesting maybe took a few beers.
Oh yes, there was a tweeting, back and forth tweeting that went on.
It wasn't much back and forth, it was more of a tweet storm from his behalf. And I would write, and look at the abuse he sent me by email, or by tweet. And I would say, look, you challenged me to a debate. You invited me to a debate. Stop and do what you do. But like, I'll turn up. And in the end, he rescinded the invitation. Made fun of my name, made fun of my nationality, called me a stinker, this and all. I mean, as the night went on, the abuse became more and more
irrational.
Abusive. Yeah, irrational. That was it. It was the irrationality. He invited me to a debate. A forum, and it's like, then he kind of had buyer's remorse, and it's like, dude, I'm willing to go, and by the way, if I don't go, like, that's fine also, but don't be taking it out on me, and don't, do you want a debate or not, or do you want, anyway, so that was one of the things. I mean, Alec Baldwin, right, has a history of attacking photographers, assaulting photographers, getting thrown off planes.
Attacking his own children, by the way.
Well, verbally attacking his own children. There is a volatility to Alec Baldwin, which I didn't like my fellow journalists in the initial hour or two after the shooting on the set with these headlines, accidental shooting, right? Because at that early stage, it was an apparently accidental shooting. And when you have Alec Baldwin, you have to tread very carefully.
Because you're not 100% sure.
You're not 100% sure what happened and whether there was disputes on the set or anything like that. Anyway, it has turned out, right? But protocol, and then there's the legal aspect of it. And I suppose there's the protocol, and then there's the civil aspect of it. So the protocol it's very strict. There's an armourer, and there's a first AD. And I've spoken to several first ADs in this hotel who, are very clear. Their job is to take the weapon from the armourer, and the armourer tells them it's a cold weapon, and they then look at it. They open the cartridge, they check the bullets.
They check as well.
They check, and they hand it to the actor. Now, they all also tell me that the actor is supposed to check it, right?
But I think there's also a point that the actor is not meant to point it at
So that's another point, is that an actor should never point a weapon at anyone. And in fact, if you see in the movies where someone is pointing a gun at someone like that and firing right in front of them, that is fake. That is shot in a way that they are not
pointing it
directly at anyone when they fire it. It's a complete no-no.
Illusion.
So that is the safety procedure, right? Which I suppose is a civil matter. But then you have the legal matter. Now, the armourer is responsible. Somehow a projectile was in that gun and hit this woman and her friend and her director. Somehow it got in. That's one safety flaw. It wasn't checked properly. That's another safety flaw. But my question is, and maybe there are lawyers out there watching this and listening to this podcast, and no one's really tackled this, because I think everyone is going with the line that Alec Baldwin is devastated, and the family doesn't blame Alec Baldwin. I know the family doesn't blame Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're right.
That doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. If I go out and kill someone in a car accident, the family may not blame me, but legally I might be guilty of careless driving, reckless driving. Those are British terms or Irish terms.
It'll be interesting to see how it develops.
My question is, and one of the ADs that I spoke to over the weekend is a former soldier, right? And he says in the army, when the armourer hands you a gun and says it's not loaded, you check it. He checks it. They always check it. When an armourer tells you in the army, and if I hand this cameraman a gun and say it's not loaded, and he points it at you and pulls the trigger and kills you, I don't think I absolve him of guilt for that by telling him it's not loaded.
Well, all of this is going to have to be worked out by someone.
Yeah, and you know, so when Alec Baldwin was handed that gun and told it's not loaded, I wonder legally does that absolve him from responsibility of pointing at someone and pulling a trigger? Now, it's complicated by the fact that it's a movie set, and as Orson Bean once said to us, actors on movie sets, you know, they become almost, not like children, but they love being directed. It's a very directed atmosphere, you know. Literally they're told stand there, and they want to be told to stand there, and they want to be told, I mean, I spoke to an actor over the weekend, and he says his biggest nightmare is a director who won't direct. You know, they want to be told how to say the line, they want to be told how to express, you know, and then they'll work within their own skill set to make it better. But so they're in this almost childlike place where they're being told what to do, and Alec Baldwin was told, apparently was told the gun is safe, and he pointed it at someone and pulled the trigger. Legally, is that enough? Because I know at home, if you're a professional driver, and the company tells you the car is safe, and you go out and the tires are bald and you crash and kill someone, it's your responsibility. You are responsible for the weapon, for the car that you're driving, not the company, right? You're criminally responsible for whatever damage you do, and surely it's the same when you fire a gun at someone. But I'd love some lawyers out there to tell me what happens when someone hands you a gun and tells you it's safe, and someone in a position of responsibility for the safety of that gun. Does that absolve you from guilt?
I think a jury would have to decide on that, probably. But we'll see. And yes. I think this is going to go on and on. I mean, obviously, everyone's been exercised by this story. The whole world is talking about it. It's kind of extraordinary and awful, and very awful for a child left without his mother and a husband left without his wife. I just
want to say, like, I'm not saying that Alec Baldwin is a criminal. This was anything criminal, but in a sense, you know, deliberately criminal. But you know, I actually, you know what?
No, you don't know. So you don't know. But there'll be an investigation.
There'll be an investigation.
That's how they're going to find out. So Oxfam have dropped Wonder Woman, the Wonder Woman bingo game that they had, featuring J.K. Rowling after trans protests. So obviously this was an Oxfam thing that they had. They just had one
to
of these
raise
games,
money
to raise money
for starving children.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us. So they have a bingo game.
You know, that they were using to raise funds for, as you said, starving children, and the trans community have got all up in arms and very, very upset about the fact that J.K. Rowling was one of the women who was featured as a Wonder Woman in the bingo game.
Yeah.
And of course we can't have that, because J.K. Rowling said the most awful thing, you know, the most dreadful thing. She said women were women and men were men.
Yeah, and this is J.K. Rowling, who's probably done more for childhood literacy than every Oxfam project across the planet.
And she's probably done more for women.
Children.
She's probably done more for women's writers, by the way, as well.
She had children lining up outside bookshops to buy books. Like, you know, this reminds me of Michelle Obama. You know, Get Out and Move campaign. You know, and you know, nobody paid any blind bit of attention to her. And then Pokemon came out with their game, and suddenly children were wandering all over the streets, out and about. You know, so this is very much like J.K. Rowling. You know, she you know, literacy campaigns. You know, write something children want to read, and boy, will you go. So she is a Wonder Woman.
She was an amazing woman. She was an amazing woman who was, you know, a single mother who, you know, was on very limited income and decided she was going to become this writer, and did it. And I mean, not just did it, but I mean, I think sells more copies of her books than the Bible. Like, she's really huge, and she is a Wonder Woman, and she is an amazing person, and a woman who's, you know, who's.
But she has offended the trans lobby.
Oh yeah, and you can't do that.
But of course, I know Dave Chappelle has said it, but I actually, you've heard me say it before. I love the word TERF. I want to be a TERF. It's the idea of being a trans exclusionary radical feminist.
It's quite amazing.
It's a great word.
Trans exclusionary radical feminist. TERF. So, and he calls himself that, right?
Yeah, no, he's on Team TERF. He says
he's on Team TERF.
I just love the word. I love the idea too. I want to be a trans exclusionary radical feminist, only without the radical feminist. But I love TERF. It's a nice word. It's a great word.
Great word.
And he's on Team TERF. I like the word. The wordsmith in me likes the word. So, talking of
no, I don't think there's any good segue into this next story.
So it was just this story. It was just this story in Breitbart, actually. You know, report, political consultants are distancing themselves from Liz Cheney, right? And it's like, so basically, Kevin McCarthy, right? That piece of,
Careful now.
Yeah, come on.
Steady now.
Just look at him. I mean, he's the Republican leader in the Congress, isn't he? And he's probably our congressman, is he? Or he's Californian congressman. Anyway, he's one of these. He was anti-Trump up until he realized he'd better get on the Trump train. He's just the world's most conventional thinker. Anyway, they're at this crap again. Do you remember that before Trump they did this, that if any consultant supports this candidate, they'll never work for the Republican Party again. And it was always Tea Party. You work for that Tea Party candidate against our establishment friend and we'll never employ you again. And of course, these consultants who don't believe in anything except money, they wouldn't work for, and by the way, you're lucky Tea Party candidates. You're lucky, Liz Cheney, that you don't have these consultants working for you, because all they do, these consultants, tell me about your qualifications. Well, I ran Ted Cruz's digital campaign in the presidential 2016, so you're a loser then. Yes. So you're going to charge me less than you did Ted Cruz? No, we're going to charge you more. This is how they work. They charge you more, and a lot of these Republican congressmen get kickbacks, or the consultants are in partnership with their son or their son-in-law. It's all a dirty, dirty game. And even the ones that aren't dirty, the consultants just bleed them dry and just reconstitute establishment talking points, liberal establishment talking points, disguise them as Republican. We need to be nicer on immigration. We need to, be nicer to Hispanics and be nicer to African Americans. And then Trump comes along and just turns all that on its head and increases the Hispanic vote and increases the black vote and makes immigration, is Mr. Nasty in immigration. And more Hispanics vote for him. So it's beyond a waste of money. It's actually negative use of money. So, but funny, that's not what got me upset. It was just this thing of, Kevin McCarthy, we're not going to hire you. Why not, Kevin? Don't you want consultants to have wide-ranging experience? Don't you want your consultants to work for all the people, to go and do polls for these people and polls for that people? Or do you want your consultants to work for you, have the same focus groups? And we all know that focus groups are sham science. It's amazing. I was once not part of a focus group. Let's just say we had a movie and someone commissioned a focus group. And you know what? The focus group amazingly came to the same conclusion as the person who commissioned the focus group. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's what happens. You commission a focus group to say, I want to be nicer on immigration. Could you get a focus group and see how that'll play? And do you know what? They'll come back and say, our focus group
agrees with you.
So, Anne, what else?
Well, in Ireland, obviously COVID is rocking on. But, we thought it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve, then it was maybe a month, then 2 months, then 3 months, then a year, and it's, it shows no sign of going away. And certainly one of the things that certainly doesn't show any sign of going away is the authoritarian health experts who want to rule every part of our lives. And in certain parts of the world are worse than others. So, for example, Australia, obviously, New Zealand, obviously, but also Ireland. A recent headline in the Irish Mirror, just extraordinary, Dr. Tony Holohan, who's in charge of the public health in Ireland, and I think he basically thinks he's in charge of everything in Ireland now, gives the green light, wait to hear this, I love this, gives the green light for kissing on the dance floor in nightclubs that are set to reopen. Yeah. So nightclubs in Ireland are just set to reopen nearly 2 years later, basically.
After the 2 weeks flatten the curve lockdown.
After the 2 weeks to flatten the curve lockdown. Don't let them lock anything
down.
Talking
of COVID, actually, I just want to go back to what we're doing here in Serbia, filming My Son Hunter. Just to show you that it's not all glamour and movie sets and talking to actors. So three members of the crew have been diagnosed with COVID since we've started. Now, luckily, it's been...
They were isolated. They were in an isolated sort of area, so it didn't affect the whole crew.
I ended up sharing a car with one of them, and I've been tested, and we all went to get tested, and in a van, and on the way back. After we got back, one of them was tested positive. I've now been tested. We're all negative, but 3 people. It's disruptive because some of them were important
and had to be replaced.
Had to be replaced. Also, just to show you how things can happen, we had an actor for quite a major minor part, a great actor actually, and unfortunately his mother died, and he's had to return to his home country. So we're scrambling. But I think this is kind of to replace that actor.
This is kind of what you have on film sets. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts, and a lot of people are the moving parts.
Yes.
And things happen to people. But going back though to COVID for a minute.
Yes.
So obviously the other huge voice on the planet in terms of COVID is Dr. Fauci, and Dr. Fauci has come on. A lot of criticism against Dr. Fauci, particularly, by the way, for the discovery that he lied to Congress about the gain of function funding from the United States. He lied about that. So in fact, actually, yes, the United States taxpayer did in fact fund gain of function research in Wuhan. And I think but bizarrely, he hasn't got his comeuppance for that. But he might be getting his comeuppance now, and it's really extraordinary. A story has come to light, and some of you probably have heard of this, where Dr. Fauci has been discovered to have also been involved in funding using your taxpayer money, American taxpayer money.
Let's just give the Daily Mail headline here.
Yes.
Cruel Fauci is condemned for spending $2 million on experiments that saw beagles debarked and trapped in cages so flies could eat them alive. Bipartisan fury at reprehensible misuse of taxpayer funds. And there's even pictures of the poor dogs and their heads stuck in these cages.
Yeah.
So flies could eat them alive.
The report claims they were also locked in cages with sandflies that ate them alive and underwent a debarking procedure. The
White Coat Waste Project alleges Fauci sent $375,800 to a Tunisian research lab. It's
just terrible, really, really terrible. But it's kind of interesting, though. It's kind of this thing with the world, the way the world is, that people are going to care a lot more about cruelty to animals than cruelty to children. Wearing masks and children being kept out of school and people not being allowed to kiss on the dance floor or anywhere else.
Or gain of function research in Wuhan, unfortunately. Exactly. But that might be the thing that brings Fauci down. What else, Anne?
Well, actually, I wanted to mention, by the way, that I'm trying to think who it was. Conrad, thank you so much, who always kind of writes messages to us on YouTube, and we really love Conrad. Conrad, you mentioned you hadn't seen the cats.
Yes, I hadn't seen the cats.
Hadn't seen the cats for ages, and said really nice things about my arm. Thank you very much. I'm doing great, by the way. He mentioned, by the way, that he has now noticed that he hasn't seen the cats for ages, and he's very upset about that. The cats are alive. We haven't killed them, or they haven't died off. And in fact, Top Cat's doing brilliant. The appendage that he had on, what would you call that? He got that removed.
It's like that's support for the 3 pins, and the metal. Was a metal plate down the middle of his leg.
And it's great. They took it off, and he's actually doing really, really well. And we have lots of friends staying over, taking care of him right now. So he's doing great.
Can I just explain why you may not have seen Top Cat? So he was not doing well because he used to jump up on things and jump down and not allow his bones to fuse. So we've been keeping him off the table in front of us during the podcast because we don't want him jumping off the table. So that is why we have you've not been seeing as much. But here are more photographs of Top Cat and Scaredy Cat.
And Scaredy Cat, exactly.
Yes.
And finally, and I know today is kind of a different kind of podcast because we're first day of the shoot and it's all very exciting, but I wanted to say, I noticed in the recipe section that we haven't posted the fantastic recipe for red pepper soup, which I highly recommend and think everybody should make. So I'm going to just do it very, very quickly, and I'll just do it through pictures. So look at these pictures right now. If you want to make this red pepper soup, it couldn't be easier. Look at the onion, potato, celery, garlic, and carrot.
Yes.
And just chop, 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 put that into the pot with some butter and saute that. Saute. Then about 6 red peppers. Look at them chopped up. Obviously, you de-seed them and chop them up nicely. Throw them into that pot. Put in some chicken stock and a bay leaf. You can see the chicken stock and the bay leaf there. Boil that up. Boil. And boil. Look at that. With peppercorns, by the way, with black peppercorns.
Don't forget to take the seeds out of the peppers.
Don't forget to do that. I just mentioned that.
Okay.
And then put your immersion blender in there and give that an immersion blending. And I cannot tell you what a nice soup that is. Highly, highly recommended. And I know I mentioned it before in the show, but I noticed, as I said, that the recipe was not put up on our on our site. So it should be.
Well, that's kind of wraps. I just want to say one thing. Remember we talked a lot about energy recently?
Yes.
And we had someone listening in Ireland who was listening thinking, I wonder, there won't be blackouts in Ireland. Well, the next thing she's in the dark.
Yes, so they're already blackouts in Ireland.
So we recently wanted to buy a generator in Ireland.
Yes.
And we wrote to a builder supplier about buying a generator and that. And they laughed at us.
They laughed at us.
They said,
you can't get them for love nor money now.
Can't get generators. You know, the government assures us there will be no blackouts this winter. Absolutely no way, because even though they closed a couple of peat-fueled and gas-fueled power stations to reduce the
greenhouse gases.
The greenhouse gases. They also
but you know what they're
closed
reducing?
the peat ones.
But you know what they're really reducing? They're reducing the lights and the electricity that's available in Ireland because they've made themselves so dependent on renewables, and that's the same as in Texas and all over the world. And that's all happening.
But they've assured us
in advance of the climate talks that are about to happen this week.
They've assured us there will be no electricity cuts in Ireland, and everyone's responded to that assurances by basically buying up every generator that ever existed in Ireland and every one that could possibly be imported. So the guy says, I'm not even taking orders, it's just such a backlog.
I'm so hoping, by the way, by next week I'll have a little bit more energy. I got no sleep at all last night because a little bit of a difference with the time. So I've got the 9 hours of difference in the time has created some jet lag issues. So I'll have more energy next week.
Yeah, you flew in, it was a 13-hour flight from Los Angeles to Istanbul, and then a couple of hours from Istanbul to Belgrade. So quite the trip.
Just to finish up by saying thank you everyone who has supported us. You've made it possible that we're here. Please give what you can to mysonhunter.com, mysonhunter.com, and we will talk to you in a week.
Thank you. Bye.